dance to. It's like
business in the front, party in the back.
Haircuts that resemble what we would call a mullet have basically been around for centuries. So this idea of a mullet, which is short hair in the front, long hair in the back, has its roots as a really practical military haircut. Vikings and Romans and early Native Americans all had hairstyles that were variants on the mullet. And the idea of it being this military haircut is that you have the long hair at the back, which keeps you warm when you're out on an exposed battlefield, but having it shorter at the front means that you're not going to get your hair pulled, you're not getting hair in your eyes. Then we kind of don't see much mullet action until more modern history, when I think we start really thinking of the mullet as we know and love it in the 70s and 80s. David Bowie was one of the first people to wear what we would kind of call a modern mullet, and he has this bright orange mullet in 1973 for Ziggy Stardust. It's this really cool, weird, otherworldly haircut at that point, and it definitely plays into this idea of gender bending. This isn't a man's haircut or a woman's haircut.
I used to be able to stop traffic quite easily by just walking down the street, no more than that, just because I had long hair.
We talk about it being on trend now, or it's this interesting thing that people are talking about, but kind of in a lot of the queer community, the mullet has never gone away. The mullet has always been this haircut that sort of sits somewhere on the margins, and you get people like Joan Jett as well in the 70s, Chrissie Hynde, Patti Smith, these really strong female women who become kind of queer icons. They also have mullets, and it is just this real anti-trend for such a long time. It's representing the outsiders, it's representing the avant-garde, creative thinkers, people that are doing things a bit differently. But that ushers in this wave of guys being a bit more experimental with their hair and having this longer hair. In the 70s, 80s is when we start seeing these really hyper-masculine characters with mullets. So that's wrestlers, it's rock gods, lots of sports players, particularly in the UK and Australia, rugby players, football players, they all have mullets. By the 80s, it's just what people's dads have, and then it's not cool anymore. By the 90s, the mullet is the least cool thing in the world, and no one has one. The Beastie Boys song Mullet Head is often cited as being the first instance of mullet being used as a term. In their song, it's kind of not necessarily being used in a good way. We get to kind of the early 2000s, it's weird, it's completely different to what everyone else is doing, and therefore it becomes attractive again, and so the cycle continues.
I'm singer-songwriter Billy Ray Cyrus, and I'm angry. Why? Because it's 2016 and mullets still haven't made a comeback.
All of us have had to adjust, a lot of things shutting down, keeping us from doing our kind of standard routines, which one of them was going to get a haircut for me.
The lockdown's had a really interesting impact on hair in general. I think we have a bit of a revival of this idea of DIY punk ethics, which was kind of practical in that we couldn't get to the salon, but also people were just interested in experimenting more.
The mullet will give you confidence. It brings out that confidence in people who really should have it, but need that extra spark. I
am all for the return of the mullet, and I think it gets so maligned, and people are just oh, the mullet is a joke, it's this funny thing, and it's it's just a hairstyle, and it's fun.